My name is Kacee Jarnot, and I'm the Director of Parent and Family Programs at Colorado State University. I love assessment because it allows us the opportunity to improve on things that we're doing and identify areas of weakness so that we can improve. It also allows us to identify what we're doing well and continue to improve on those pieces. The process, I think, is really important because it allows us as a staff to come together and really kind of brainstorm what we want out of our program and what program or service we're trying to offer. Allows us to create a plan on how we're going to get there, and then allows us, after we've done those programs and services, to assess our constituency, which happens to be parents and families of Colorado State students, and get their feedback on how well we did that. From there, it then allows us to create a cycle where we're able to take that feedback and improve for the future. If there's one thing I could share with student affairs professionals about assessment, it's that assessment is a process, it's not an event. It's not, we did this one program, here's a survey, we're going to call it a day. There's much more to it than that. And so I really like Peggy Mackey's assessment cycle, the model that she uses, because it centers on mission, purposes, and educational objectives, and allows us as a staff to spend time on the front end of programs and services thinking about how do we identify outcomes, what are the things that we want to offer, and then from there, how do we gather evidence for that, how do we identify what we're doing well, what we're not doing well, how do we take time to interpret that evidence so we can determine what are the things that are awesome, and also where are the gaps in the programs and services that we're providing, and then at the end of the day, how do we use that information to implement change? I think the difficult part, people get hung up on the implementing change and how do we gather that information, that it has to be a very formal process, and I would argue potentially that it doesn't have to be a very formal process, that it could be very informal, but just tracking those informal pieces help track data. And so if there's a program or service at the end of it, you know it went well, what are the things that you know went well just based on what you feel? Is it a conversation you had with a student? Is it at the end of the day, you saw more connections between the members of those communities, if that connection building is one of your outcomes? And how do you track those things? How do you say, I had a conversation with a student and here's what I got out of that, and that count as data for decision makers for implementing change? We've had students create murals with their undergraduate students and track how coming together and creating that mural builds community, tracks empowerment among students, and builds a cohort within a residence hall. So things like that really are ways of tracking data and measuring student outcomes all along this assessment cycle that Peggy Mackey offers us. At the end of it, I think assessment is a journey. I think that it takes us a long time to find the data that we want and get the data that we want and get on the right path for us. But we'll just encourage you in your journey in student affairs to kind of stick with it and assess as much as possible, because that's going to be the data that helps you move your program forward.